It was one of those impromptu adventures that only seem like a good idea late at night. My best friend and I, fueled by youthful exuberance and the kind of deep-seated boredom that only a small town can instill, decided to take her beat-up sedan for a spin down the old back roads. Our soundtrack was a mix of classic hits and guilty pleasure pop, and the smell of fast food fries filled the car. It was our little bubble of bliss, until it wasn't. As we approached an old stoplight that flickered more often than it shone, a woman appeared from the shadows. Her hair was a wild tangle of black, and her eyes locked onto ours with an intensity that turned our laughter into lumps in our throats. She started walking towards us, each step deliberate and knowing, as if she was aware of something we weren't. The light stubbornly stayed red, and a primal fear rooted us to the spot. "Drive," my friend hissed, her voice a mix of fear and urgency. But I was frozen until the woman's hand was almost on the door handle. Then, survival instinct kicked in, and I floored it, running the red light without a second thought. We sped away, hearts pounding and not daring to look back. That's when we saw it. A shadow standing in the middle of the road ahead. It raised its arms, signaling us to stop. But we were past listening to the silent commands of roadside specters. We swerved around it, narrowly avoiding collision, and that's when we heard it. A thump on the roof of the car. Screams filled the car as a face appeared on the windshield, a face that was anything but human. It had fangs and eyes that burned with an otherworldly malice. Just as we were sure our end was near, blue and red lights flashed behind us. It was the police. They pulled up beside us, one officer driving while the other leaned out the window, revolver in hand. "Keep it steady, ladies," he shouted over the wind and our own cries. The creature leaped from our car to theirs, and for a moment, everything was chaos and gunfire. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature was gone, retreating into the dark with a shriek that echoed in our bones. The officers guided us to a stop and got out of their car, surprisingly nonchalant. "You girls all right?" one asked, checking his watch as if this was just another routine stop. The other officer grinned, a twinkle of humor in his eyes. "Seems like you've had quite the night. Don't suppose you were out looking for trouble?" Their calm in the face of what had just happened was almost more shocking than the creature itself. They explained that strange things were known to happen around these parts, and that we should be more careful. "These roads have a way of bringing out the weird," the first officer said with a shrug. The other officer chuckled, "And next time, maybe stick to the main streets. The wildlife out here doesn't take kindly to visitors." As they left, spinning their car around with a spray of gravel, we sat there in the eerie afterglow of adrenaline and disbelief. We knew one thing for certain: our nights of careless driving were over. And as we drove home, every shadow seemed to hold a potential horror. But the memory of the officer's nonchalance and humor offered a small but significant comfort.